Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the Licensing and Regulatory Committees. This meeting is being streamed live on our website and also being recorded. As remote meetings are fairly new and we are relying on technology, hopefully everything will go well, but please bear with us if we do have any technical difficulties at all. I'd just like to emphasise a few points for everybody taking part. Hopefully you won't be disturbed or distracted wherever you are. When you're not actively participating in the meeting, please keep your audio and video turned off. If you want to speak, if you could type an H in the chat box, then I can call you when it's your turn to speak. All questions and contributions through the chair, please. And don't forget to turn your audio and video on just before you want to speak. Thank you. Anyone with an interest, any councillor with an interest, please declare it. Keep your audio and video off when it's being considered, and you won't be considered included in any vote. We will have a motion or recommendation where we will need to vote tonight. If nobody says that they will be opposing anything, then I will assume that you're in agreement. And if we lose the live stream at any time, the meeting will be adjourned, hopefully for 10 minutes, and then we will be back into the meeting. If we can't, then it'll be adjourned until a further date. So thank you very much. Could I please ask Dan Bird for apologies for absence and to say who's here attending the meeting, please?
Thank you, Chair. I haven't had any apologies, but I'll just run through who's present with us tonight. So, Councillor Mascott, yourself, you're here as Chair. Then we have Councillors Amble, Councillor Ashley, Councillor Clark, Councillor Davidson, Councillor Frascona, Councillor Hughes, Councillor John, Councillor Jones, Councillor Lee, Councillor Mullane, Councillor Rajesh and Councillor Roberts. And then the officers present tonight, we have Nigel Dermott, Dan Winter, Lacey Latimer, Katie Higgins, Victoria Marsh and myself. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we're on to, agenda item 3, public question time. I understand there aren't any members of the public who've submitted questions at this time. So we'll move on to 4, which is the 5-yearly review of the Statement of Licensing Policy. Nigel, I understand that you are addressing the committee on this one. You're introducing it. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Wants to go back on automatically. I do apologise.
Okay.
Chair, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the purpose of this report is to ask members to consider the proposed amendments to the existing Statement of Licensing Policy that's made under the Licensing Act 2003 and to agree the consultation process for adopting these amendments prior to its adoption by the Council. The recommendations are to approve the amendments to the Statement of Licensing Policy as detailed in this report and agree that following the public consultation, if no comments are received, that the policy shall be forwarded direct to Cabinet and subsequently to full Council. B, if significant comments are received, these are considered by a future meeting of the Licensing Committee, and any further amendments as a result of the consultation are agreed prior to the policy being considered by Cabinet. Lastly, C, if comments are received that are not significant, these will be discussed with the Chair of the Licensing Committee and the Cabinet member for a greener and safer Chelmsford prior to the policy being considered by Cabinet. Chair, the background to this is that the Licensing Act 2003 passed responsibility for the authorisation of premises for the provision of public entertainment and the sale of alcohol in November 2005 from the magistracy. This transfer of responsibility also encompassed a number of other regimes, e.g. the provision of late night refreshments as one example. This enactment created each district and unitary authority as independent licensing authorities. Therefore, under Section 5 of the Licensing Act 2003, each licensing authority, before carrying out its functions, was required to publish a Statement of Licensing Policy, and that is reviewable 5-yearly. that applicants and the authority should have regard to when making decisions relating to the authorisation of licensable activities and when considering various applications made to the authority under the Act. The guidance provided under Section 182 of the 2003 Act, issued by the Secretary of State, relates to the matter of statements of licensing policy. Initially, each licensing authority within the County of Essex created its own policy from an agreed framework. But over time, those authorities have established their own policy and an approach towards the authorisation of licensable activities and the advice and guidance that each will offer. Only in establishing a statement of licensing policy does a licensing authority have the lawful ability to carry out its functions. The statement of licensing policy is attached at Appendix A. It's a proposed draft of the copy of statement licensing policy, having regard to the Licensing Act, its guidance, and all other supporting legislation. The policy has been completely reviewed along with those regulations relating to enforcement, best practice across the country, and includes a new section containing model conditions to assist applicants, members and officers in establishing conditions that are clear, understandable and enforceable as referred to within the Section 182 guidance. In conclusion, I'm asking that members are the document attached and offer any guidance prior to formal consultation as required under the legislation process, including any suggestions for any consultees that they would wish to have involved in addition to those identified at Annex B in the Statement of Licensing Policy. Will be on Council's website as well as being published in the local newspaper. The Statement of Licensing Policy, if this draft is agreed, must now be consulted upon and presented to Cabinet in October 2020 and at the December full Council meeting in time for the final public to take effect of legal obligations under the Act for January 2020. The draft statement of licensing policy is attached. There are some background papers. These are not attached to the policy because they are probably more dynamic than the policy itself and can be subject to amendments and change over a period of time, and therefore these background reading documents can be found